Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the second volume in Chandos's ongoing series featuring John Wilson and the BBC Scottish Symphony Orchestra, the orchestral music of Richard Rodney Bennett, not to be confused with Robert Russell Bennett. I always get them mixed up. One of you also said you do too. It's an issue. Robert Russell Bennett was the great American orchestrator, Broadway guy, concert music composer also, who did the arrangements, for example, the symphonic portrait of Porgy and Bess and stuff like that. He was a wonderful, wonderful artist, but he is not Richard Rodney Bennett, who also actually had his, popular music side. He did film scores like Murder on the Orient Express and things like that. So, it's very easy to confuse them, but they're actually quite different. Now, Volume 2 mixes one of Bennett's serious works, one of his symphonies, with some lighter pieces. The truth of the matter is he was a much better composer with the lighter pieces than the serious ones, I have to say. They try and make the case in the publicity material for this that it's all the work of the same composer who had a great range because he could write everything from atonal squeak bloop to charming, tuneful, breezy, lovely, approachable pieces. And, if you can do one, why would you want to do the other? I don't get it. I don't get it because, quite frankly, his symphonies are miserable. They really are so far. I remember the first. We'll get to that one when we get to it, but because that was recorded previously. But Symphony Number 2 is in one movement. It's about 18 minutes long. It basically goes like this. Okay? That's how it goes. It's not that it's badly written. It's not. It's written with great craft, you could tell. But when a composer writes, when you surround it with other pieces which are vastly more interesting and more approachable, it sounds even worse than it probably is. You'd be better off doing all the symphonies and having one giant fiesta of screech bloop or squeak bloop or bloop screech or whatever you want to call it, instead of showing that the guy really could write some lovely works and making us suffer through the screeching to get to the good stuff. Really, seriously. All of which suggests that there is an issue with Bennett. If you have to do that to show your seriousness and depth, part of it was a response to the climate of the times, the 50s and 60s and 70s, when academic serialism was the thing. And part of it is just, his willing complicity in that assumption that the more difficult the idiom, the more serious the effort. And I don't buy that. I don't see why any of us should anyway. But let's see what's on here, okay? You've got, first, the Concerto for Stan Getz for tenor, saxophone, timpani, and strings. It's a fine work. It's peppy where it needs to be. Its high point is the slow movement, which is marked elegy, I believe. It's over here. He writes tunes, and it's nice and bluesy and saxophony. The problem is, with all of Bennett's work, quite frankly, is that it doesn't have a lot of individualism. Because he's so eclectic, you can't really listen to this and say, oh gosh, that's Bennett and no one else. It's a little, he has some habits. For example, in a couple of these pieces, he tends to like to, in finales, once things get going, to suddenly have a moment of silent reflection before the zippy wind-up. That happens. That's like a fingerprint. But, maybe as this series progresses, and I hear there are 5 volumes now, and I hear more of it, and we talk about more of it, we'll begin to hear more of those fingerprints. But at the moment, he doesn't seem too fingerprinty. But it's a good work. It's a good work. It's just a slightly anonymous work. Then we have Symphony Number 2. Like I said, forget it. Then we've got the Serenade for small orchestra and the Partita for, it's also for sort of a smallish orchestra. They're both charming jeu d'esprit kind of pieces, breezy outer movements, touchingly attractive central movements. They sound very much like the school of William Walton, a little bit maybe of Hindemith even in some places, and they're approachable and enjoyable on that basis. There isn't any reason not to like them. And you should sample them and hear them. You might find something you really enjoy. But they're not major works, you see. And it seems to me that a composer should seek profundity not by adopting different idioms, but by mastering the ones that they use in such a way that you say, oh, that's really deep, Anyway, this is all quite facile on my part as well. But that's how this struck me. And I think it probably will strike a lot of you the same way. And it's a shame because he's a talented guy. I mean, he wrote lovely music. And there are 3 really, really worthwhile works on this disc. And only 18 minutes of blah. So you might want to give it a shot. The performances sound great. They really do. John Wilson is really, very, very good when it comes to lesser known repertoire, things that don't involve, grandiosity and trying to show off his not totally fabulous Symphonia of London type orchestra. This is the BBC Scottish Symphony Orchestra, which plays quite well. And the sonics are just terrific. So give it a shot. What the hell, And maybe you'll like the Second Symphony better than I will. It's mercifully brief, so you can't complain on that score. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.